So I saw this post by a sort of elite runner. He essentially said that what he loves most about running is that the only way to improve is to put in the good old-fashioned honest hard work. And I was like, I don't know if I believe that, because I can think of a lot of ways that we can cheat to improve our performance that are totally legal. As my college coach Pete Wareham used to say, work hard, but cheat when you can. With that said, here are 6 totally legal cheats you can use to take your running up to the next level without putting in any additional work. My first marathon, I ran a 2:21, and it hurt like heck. As Mason Frank loves to tell the story, I pretty much sat down and cried at the end of it. But with the advent of these guys, super shoes, with the additional cushioning to take away some of that pounding and the carbon fiber plate to give you a boost in return of energy, well, we pretty much all kind of know by now that these shoes are a serious cheat. They increase your performance by 4 to 5% without any additional effort on your part. In my second marathon, I ended up using these guys and I took 7 minutes off my personal best, which is pretty big deal at that level. I would attribute at least a portion of that to the shoes. Back when I competed for the United States, the competition schedule was relentless. And not only that, there was a plethora of extraordinarily talented athletes at every single event. And just like the pressure to always be in tip-top shape year-round was just exhausting. And so by a strange series of events, I actually ended up transferring my allegiance to a small country in Europe called Luxembourg. And this was kind of a cheat that gave me a simpler and easier path to qualifying for World Championships or Olympics or other major international events. But there was another huge benefit that's kind of overlooked here, and that's that this gave me an escape from the constant pressure of keeping up with the Joneses, or the Germanses, as I would say. Don't get me wrong, like I still sought out the best athletes I could find to train with and push me in workouts, but since I was no longer competing with these athletes for spots on teams, I didn't feel obligated to crush my body and destroy myself just to prove something if, it was going to be detrimental to my long-term development. Essentially, I found a way to escape the trap of daily comparisons. How am I doing versus him or him or him? And able to step back and just do what was best for me. I understand that not everyone's going to be able to just up and switch countries like I did, but you can certainly evaluate your training environment and see if this is something that maybe needs to be changed or switched up, or is this an environment that's helping you, or is it hurting you? Going into my senior year at St. Thomas, I was coming off of 2 stress fractures, one in the tibia and one in the 4th metatarsal. And I had made a promise to my coach my freshman year, and actually I still have it, if you can see that. I still have it. I made a promise to my coach that I would win at least one national championship at St. Thomas in cross country. And going into my senior year, I was entering competition season off of essentially no training, and as a result, I had absolutely no confidence either. So I had seen this study that placebo steroids can actually help almost as much, sometimes half as much as actual steroids. And I thought, well, I'll give it a try. I got needles, filled them with water, and injected it into my gluteal. To be fair, I want to emphasize there was nothing illegal here. It was just water. But I was telling myself that it was real and that it was going to help me. And I'm a huge fan of the power of belief. And I was able to convince myself that this was helping me. And despite having essentially no training, I did go on to win every race I ran that fall, including the NCAA Division III Cross Country National Championship later that fall. Now, I think in regards to this, there's also a bigger lesson to be had here, which is that if you believe something works, it probably will, but not always for the reasons you expect it to. I think I have some footage here. Let me see if I can get it to play. So number 4, I've heard this 1,000 times from Dakota, one of my favorite runners, but Smiling, right? Smiling can improve your performance. In a study at Ulster University and Swansea University, athletes who smiled while running were not only more economical and they consumed less oxygen, but they also had a lower perceived rate of exertion compared to those in a control group and those who were instructed to frown. See, the benefit for those in the study who smiled was almost 3%, almost as great as the 4% you can oftentimes attain from super shoes. So this is a huge cheat that you can use to increase performance by 2 to 3% without any real additional effort. If anything, you'll feel less effort. Now, I won't go into all the details. There's a whole lot of science behind this, but just know that by smiling, you can improve your performance 2 to 3%. 2019, the Houston Marathon. I'm approaching mile 15. I'm getting a little bit thirsty, but unfortunately I didn't qualify as an elite athlete that year, so they didn't let me have bottles on the course. So as we rolled through the aid station and all the other elites are grabbing their bottles, I was like, hey, if anyone has extra fluids they can share, like I'll take a swig. And the legend Tommy Rivers offers up his bottle. He's like, here you go, man. I take a swish of the fluids and swill it around in my mouth for a second or two, and then I spat it out. And I look at him, I was like, dude, what is that? He's like, Red Bull. And I was like, okay. Well, I'm really glad that I didn't swallow that. Regardless, I still felt a jolt of energy, kind of bringing a little bit of pep back into my legs as a result. And it turns out there's science behind that too. See, you don't actually have to swallow fluids to get the advantage from them. In a study at the University of Birmingham, cyclists who swilled a sugary performance drink in their mouth for 4 to 5 seconds and then spat it out actually performed significantly better over the course of a 1-hour trial compared to those who just swilled water. And they also compared just as well as the athletes who actually swallowed the beverage. See, there's some science behind it. You're essentially tricking your brain into thinking that you've got these electrolytes and sugars coming when in fact they might not be. And it certainly works for exercise bouts in the range of 30 minutes to an hour and possibly longer. So maybe not the best recommendation if you're doing an ultra, but if you haven't had the opportunity to practice with fluids, no worries. You don't need to consume and swallow and let it sit in your stomach. Just swilling it around in your mouth for 4 to 5 seconds, maybe a couple of times, and then spitting it out will get you just as good, if not better, results. Look, I'm not getting paid to say this. This isn't a sponsored video, but I do genuinely believe that one of the best cheats in running is personalized coaching. When I look back at my career, every time that I made a significant breakthrough, whether it was high school, college, or post-collegiate, I can attribute it to having had a great coach. Now, there are obviously thousands of coaches out there, but I wanted to shout out 2 of them in particular. One, a good friend of mine, Victoria from Run for PRs. She runs this online coaching business, and they cover all aspects of coaching, from run improvement, personalized coaching, to weight training or diet or any issues you might be having. And the other one is my good friend Danny Doherty, and he has his own coaching business as well. He works with his mom, Bev Doherty, and I actually have a video. If you go back into the former videos I've made, a couple years ago I made a video with her. She was a 6-time USA Olympic Trials qualifier in the marathon, which is more than anybody has ever done. Super respectable running family with a lot of accolades, and they're just trying to give back as well. So 2 great options if you're looking for personalized coaching to take your running to the next level.